So I put the horizon line way up there, and this is about 2.5 times the speed. I just like telling you that because I don't want you to think that I'm drawing this like super fast. The original to this was actually 21 minutes from me meandering and drawing stuff and redrawing stuff. But what you're about to see, you see I went ahead and decided to, that perspective was outside of the cone of vision and it was a forced perspective. So I said, well, hold on. Let me do this. I want to make, essentially, what you're going to see me do is I'm just making a box that you could see through. It's in 2-point perspective. So when you're looking at things like this, and we see this all the time, especially if you're a gamer and you play video games. What I'm making right here is a little weapon shop. I am drawing through this entire weapon shop. It's just a little stand, as you see in a lot of video games. And so you see I'm just lining up where the swords should be. I'm putting like a little chest over there. Maybe some more swords on the wall. And I'm putting the counter behind. I'm drawing through the counter. I'm lining up everything within perspective. I'm putting the edges of this there. So if you're making some sort of presentation to someone, and to put it into context, I put it next to maybe it's next to another shop. If any of you have ever played Skyrim, you know how they have the little shops that are outside of the buildings. That's essentially what I'm doing. And so I'm putting in, all I'm doing is just using 2-point perspective that's below the horizon line. And the reason why I did that is because I just want you to be able to see on the inside. I want to establish the fact that this is a weapon shop. I'm just putting more things in. And I am constantly going back to retweak. Another thing that I was looking at with this red line right here was perhaps where a character could be standing or interacting with another character. And so I kind of lined them up a little bit, but I wind up not putting in the characters, but I just want to make sure that I wanted to make sure that this was something that when I put the characters in, it doesn't look awkward. And if I decided to put the characters in, where their heads are going to be and how they line up. So I still use 2-point perspective for that. So now all I'm doing is going in with the perspective tool, and you can do this with anything. You can turn this little box that you could see inside. You can make your own cutaways. This could be an entire room. It's the same principle. And can you do this weapon shop with 3-point perspective? Absolutely you can. You absolutely can make a cutaway with 3-point perspective. You can make this into a room. You can attach another room on the other side of it and show the doorway and showing it going into another room altogether. You, of course, can design objects in 2-point perspective. But I felt like instead of me getting into objects, because I would have to start doing into curves and things like that, that gets a bit more advanced. But I wanted to show you just the power of what you can do with just 1, 2, and 3-point perspective. So I just kind of drew a little... I made it into a bit more of a crate, and I am now putting that. You could tell that it's maybe some sort of fantasy something, and this isn't going to be the most beautifully drawn, but I just want to show you what you already can do with what you already can do now, because chances are most of you watching this at some point have drawn a box in 2-point perspective. And if you've just been following along with anyone else's perspective book, you've taken this box and you've turned it into an entire skyscraper with windows, or a small office building, which we're going to do too. But that same principle, that same box can be done for a video game. Or it could be done for a comic. Maybe you have a fantasy comic and the character is going to go haggle with the weapon shop dealer. And all I did was just put some little indication lines to show you that these are swords back there. And you'll see me just drop a few shapes in just to let you know what this is going to be. And I would really, as I said before, I would really design it beforehand. So I'm trying to make this to show you that it's wooden. And I wind up going, oh, okay, let me kind of fix this. And so I think I go back in with my perspective tool. Once again, if you guys are drawing on paper, this is the kind of stuff that will take you no time at all. If you're just drawing this on paper, this will take a lot less time, I believe. This is the kind of stuff where you can just kind of take that ruler and just move straight across, and you will have no problems at all. So those of you that are working on paper, and I urge everybody to work on paper because I work on paper most of the time. And really the only time that I do draw like this is when I am teaching, whether it be my YouTube channel or I have a course. But I like to draw on paper and then I scan it in, because that makes my life a lot easier. I think that there's something about touching the paper and getting the feel of the stroke and really understanding your lines, because I am really heavy-handed because I don't have a Cintiq. So I just have a regular Bamboo Wacom tablet, which I highly recommend Bamboo Wacom. So at this last little portion, I get a little bit designy in here. I'm putting in the structure underneath. Even though you don't see it, I put in the structure underneath that the little decorative tint is going to sit on top of, because I need to know what's under there. I need to know how that's sitting on there, and I try to make that look as pretty as possible. I also put that on a separate layer, by the way. The actual canopy is the word I was looking for. I put the canopy on a second layer, on the layer above it, and you'll see me turn off that layer. So now it sits on one layer, and I'm just tightening up those. Well, not really tightening up the lines. I'm closing it off, and then I go back in, and I usually see these things striped, because I think that's a reason is honestly for sales. It's like, oh, look at my tent, look at my canopy. You know that there's a sale going on here. And then I just basically just drop in. Well, you can see that I didn't close that off. So I just go ahead and drop in some color. After I figure out where I did not put my lines. And it's not clean by any means. It's just more of a sketch. But I just wanted to put some color in there. And I would have designed this beforehand. So you can check this out. And you see what happens when I bring in the other layer. That wasn't perfect. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I need to drop in some color there so it'll look. And so you see, that's just my basic little weapon shop. That's something you could do right now. Don't do that. Don't do that either. But go ahead and design your own weapon shop, and then design an alchemist shop, and then design some more little shops, and then make that into a little room. Make that into some doors, and give that a different kind of feel to it.